Crucifixion or crucifixion? Crucifixion or crucifixion? You see what is it? It is repeating the same word. How can it be or this? This fiction is something else from the fiction, fiction. This crucifixion is a fiction. That it didn't happen. The way the Christians claim, those things didn't happen. They haven't got a word in their language. Person going on the cross and going through the ordeal and not dying. Would you say he was crucified? No. What happened on the cross? There is no word in the English language. For that they're making a mockery of me. I said, I'll supply you the word. I said, what it is not crucifixion in inverted commas, it is crucifixion. These are fictions taking place. These are fairy tales. Zan. So, from there we find, he tells her, gives her advice to go and tell his brethren that he is risen. So she goes and tells them. An amazing thing, these disciples of Jesus. Amazing reactions. Mark chapter 16 verse 11. And they, the disciples, when they heard that he was alive, A-L-I-V-E, alive, not resurrected. This is the scripture, Mark 16:11, that he was alive and had been seen by her, by Mary Magdalene. She says, she saw him alive. They believed not. The Bible says they didn't believe. The woman says, look, I saw him, he's alive. And they didn't believe it. Why didn't they believe? She's testifying that, look, I met him, I spoke to him. And they didn't believe. Why would they not believe? Because at the back of their minds, this man Jesus was dead. And she's talking about a live person. If she had said she's seen the ghost of Jesus, the spook of Jesus, the spirit of Jesus, they would have believed. But she's not talking about spook and ghost and yes. She's talking about the man, he's alive. Because they know, they believe. Spirits going into pigs. It's in the Bible. The spirits went into pigs and 2,000, I heard of them. They ran down the hill and they all got drowned. Spirits going into pigs, they saw. They saw with their own eyes, spirits going into pigs. They saw a spirit going into trees and tying them up from the very roots. They saw. They believe anything. But to believe that the living Jesus is alive, that they couldn't believe. If she said, I saw his spook, they would have believed. His spook was all right, but not him. Look, I'm only quoting. She said, he's alive. And they didn't believe. The disciples wouldn't believe. He's going to Emmaus. On the way to Emmaus, he's got two disciples of his walking side by side. And he's preaching to them about what had happened the previous 3 days. 5 miles they walk, and they still can't recognize the man. I ask you why. He's disguised like Paul Mooney in The Good Earth. I don't know whether it's, he looks like a real The King and I. What's that? Jules Brenner. You know, when these guys, when they take those parts, you think the guy is Indonesian or Indo-Chinese, Siamese, the Siamese king. You believe that when you see the guys on the screen, you believe that the guy is a Siamese king when he's a European and a Jew. Jules Brenner. When he acts a part of Pharaoh in the 10 Commandments, you think that he is Pharaoh, he's an Egyptian. No, they're so realistic. So Jesus Christ has got such a fantastic disguise. He's talking with his disciples 5 miles and they don't recognize the man. Why? Because he's disguised, not because he's resurrected. He's disguised. So when they reach Emmaus, he makes it that he's going to carry on. So they say, come, it's time to eat. Come and join us. So he's persuaded. When he's persuaded, and it came to pass, Luke tells us, chapter 24, verse 30. And it came to pass, as he sat eating with them, he took bread and blessed it. They said, the manner in which he brake bread, the eyes were opened. It means, what does it mean, the eyes were opened? It means they recognized the man. It didn't mean they were walking 5 miles with eyes closed. Look, this is a figure of speech. It means now they recognized the man, the eyes were open, not that they were walking 5 miles with closed eyes. Their eyes were open. They recognized the man. So when they recognized the man, Jesus vanished. What did he do? The Indian rope trick, going up the rope and vanishing? No. He vanished means he went away out of sight. So these disciples, they run to that upper room where they had the Last Supper, and they find the others there. There were other 8 there. 8 were there. And they go and tell them, say, Jesus, he was with us, and he sat down to eat. And the way he was breaking bread, and the way he was blessing it. Like we say, Bismillah. They say, Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu malach haolam hamotzi lacham min haaretz. This is the Hebrew way of saying Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Get started. So the way he said it, they recognized that this is Jesus. So he vanished. He said, man, these guys now are in danger. They might go and tell everybody and I get into trouble. So they run to that upper room. They're telling them, say, he's there. He was with us. And they say, I can't believe. And they said, we can't believe. And in came Jesus. Some said he stood in the midst. Like that vanishing trick, that these guys in Star Trek, you see in your TV sets. The guys, they dematerialize and they materialize somewhere and they dematerialize. And you think they did something like that? There's nothing like that. In came Jesus. Doors being shut. That doesn't mean he came in through the keyhole. Like this, you see sometime in films, they show you, the smoke coming out and materializing into a genie. No. He didn't say he, through the crevice in the wall, he crept through. Nothing of the kind. The doors were shut. This was the mansion. My humble home in Verulam, we've got 4 entrances, my humble home. This is the mansion, an upper room. Surely there were other rooms, other ways and means of getting into the house. I don't know how these brothers got there. I don't know how they got there. Look at them. Look. How did they get there? I don't know. But there must be a way. They don't materialize and dematerialize from there. There must be a way. I don't know. So in that upper room he goes in. The doors were shut. And they're terrified. The disciples got terrified. I'm asking, why were they terrified? When you meet your long-lost master, your uncle, your grandfather, we Eastern people, we embrace one another, we kiss one another. Why should the disciples of Jesus be terrified? So Luke tells us that they were affrighted because they thought he was a spirit. Luke chapter 24 verse 37. They thought he was a spirit. I'm asking, did he look like a spirit? They said no. Then I said, why should they think the man is a spirit when he didn't look like one? Puzzled. As I tell you why. You see, the disciples of Jesus, they had heard from hearsay that the master was hanged on the cross. They had heard from hearsay, Suni hui baat, what they had heard, that he was hanged on the cross, that he had given up the ghost, he had died. And now he's dead and buried for 3 days. A man with such a reputation, you expect him to be stinking in his grave. Such a person, when you see, naturally you are terrified. See the reason why they are terrified? Because they were not there. They were not eyewitnesses or your witness to the happenings. Because Mark chapter 14 verse 50, he says, for all his disciples forsook him and fled. Tu had almal hum farlat and khaflah. Almal. I'm asking the Afrikaner, does almal mean almal in your language? Does it mean all? You Englishmen, does all mean all in your language? You Zulu, does bonke mean bonke in your language? I said yes. So they were not there. All the knowledge of some hearsay, what they had heard. So now they're terrified. They think he's a ghost. So Jesus wants to assure them that is not what they're thinking. They're thinking he's a ghost. He's come back from the dead. So he says, cake na me hand and me footer. Cake. Have a look at my hands and my feet. Want that it is excel, that it is I myself. I am the same fellow man. Damn fools, what are you afraid of me for? Fool on me and cake. Handle me and see. Want a chiasatni flesh and diana, swas jelasin that ekhetni. For a spirit has no flesh and bones, as you see me have. So if I got flesh and bones, in that case, I'm not a spirit, I'm not a ghost, I'm not a spook. I said, is that what it means in your language, you Englishman? He said, yes. And you Afrikaner? He said, yes. And you Arab? He said, unzuru ila yadayya wa rijlayya. He says, behold my hands and my feet. Inni ana huwa, that it is I myself. Hussuni wanzuru, say, handle me and see. Fa inna ruha laysa lahu laqmun wa izamun. For the spirit has no flesh and bone. In any language, every language, it is so simple and straightforward. But how people can be programmed, brainwashed. People can be brainwashed. We too. We must be on guard. People can be brainwashed. They're reading something and seeing something else. They're not seeing what is there. They're reading something in their own mother tongue, and then somebody is making them to understand just the opposite of what they're reading. Just exact opposite. Not what is written there, but opposite. He said a spirit has no flesh and bones. They say spirit has flesh and bones. Funny. Jesus said a spirit has no flesh and bones. In other words, he's not resurrected. He's telling them that he's not resurrected, because the resurrected bodies get spiritualized. So the clever fellow says, who says so? I said, Jesus. You say, where? I said, Luke chapter 20, verse 36. We are talking about 24, 36. Go back 4 chapters, you'll find it there. What Jesus said. So what does he say? I say, the Jews, we're always coming to Jesus with poses and riddles. Want to make a fool of him. Want to make a mockery of him. Now they come to him. They said, Master, in the Hebrew language, Rabbi, like Sheikh, Imam, Master, Rabbi, Maulvi Sahib, Maulana. Says, there was a woman among us, a Jewess, and that woman had 7 husbands. 7 husbands she had, according to a Jewish practice. You see, the Jews, they had a custom that if one brother died, and if he had left no offspring, then the second fellow takes her to wife. And when he fails, the third. And when that guy fails, the fourth, and the fifth, and the sixth, and the seventh. 7 guys had this one woman, one after another. But there was no problem, because it was one by one. Now they want to know from Jesus that at the resurrection, Yawm al-Qiyamah, when everybody wakes up same time, from Adam to eternity, then 7 brothers also waking up same time, and they see this woman, they say, Mefro. Everybody say, Mefro. There's a war in heaven between the brothers. They say, this is mine. The other guy says, this is mine. There's a fight. 7 brothers, because they all had her. They want to have her on the other side. So they want to know which guy is going to have her on the other side, because they all had her here. This is what the Bible says. They all had her here, so they want to have her on the other side. Which guy is going to have him? Who will be entitled to have her on the other side? In answer to that, Jesus says, neither shall they die anymore. Once they are resurrected, they will be immortalized. This is a mortal body which has got its mortal needs, food, shelter, clothing, sex, rest. Without these things, no Indians left, no Afrikaners left, no Malays left, nothing. That body will be an immortal body. He said, neither shall they die anymore, for they are equal unto the angels, meaning they will be angelized, they will be spiritualized, they will be spiritual creatures, they will be spirits. For they are equal unto the angels and the children of God. Such are the children of the resurrection, spirits. He says, when he said, "Nie vlees en bene, soos julle sien dat ek het nie." A spirit has no flesh and bones. I am not resurrected. Can't you see? Simple, basic knowledge. Why does he have to convince anybody that a spirit has no flesh and bones? You don't have to prove it to an atheist, to an agnostic, to a Hindu, to a Jew, anybody, everybody. We believe that the spirits have no flesh and bones. Because they are thinking he is a spirit, he's come back from the dead. So he's telling, I'm not there. Can't you see, you fools, what's wrong with you? And they believe not for joy. They are overjoyed and wondered, what happened? So he says, have you here any meat, something to eat? And they gave me a piece of broiled fish and a honeycomb, and hy het dit geneem en voor hulle oë geëet. And he took it and he ate in the very sight, as if to prove what? There is a ghost, there is a spirit, that is resurrected. Resurrected bodies eat broiled fish and honeycomb, do they? He's proving to you, I'm the same fellow man. What's wrong with you fools? Look, Mary Magdalene says he was alive. You know, the other disciples, when they said, look, he's alive, they said, and they believe not. Now these 10, they tell Thomas. Thomas wasn't there. They said, look, the master was here, and he ate with us, broiled fish and honeycomb. He says, I will not believe. What will he not believe? Imagine, this doubting Thomas. He's become famous for doubting. Thomas was his name. He said, I will not believe. Why won't he believe? Because they're telling him he's a living Jesus, he's alive, not his ghost. He said, look, we saw the ghost of Jesus. They see them every day. In those days, they're seeing them every day. No, they're not talking about ghosts, about spook, about spirits. They're talking about him, himself, the man eating broiled fish and honeycomb. He said, I will not believe. 8 days later, Jesus comes again. Now he sees this guy. Thomas says, hey, Thomas, come. reach hither thy finger, and behold my hands, and put your hand into my side, and don't be faithless. Now he realizes what a fool he was. This is my God, my Lord. So now the Christians say he recognized that Jesus is his God and his Lord. Imagine. You exclaim, you go and report me to the special branch, that that was preaching communism here. To you all, communism. So they come along, harass me, they give me trouble, and they tell me eventually, he says, look, it's your friend, man. Who? Mr. Muhammad. He said, he is the guy who was, prodding us. So when I meet him, his broad smiling face, my benefactor, my friend, I say, Sali, my God. What a thing to do. Sali, my God. He is my God. I say, Sali, Allah, what a thing you have done. Sali, Allah, you Allah. What's wrong with you people? This is an exclamation. What a fool that I was, man. The 10 disciples telling that he is alive, and I said, I will not believe. What reason did they have to lie? All the 10, he disbelieved them all. Why? Because they were telling that he was alive. Now this crucifixion, it has become a joke by God. It has become a joke. The way they have been trying to tell us about what a thing it was, it is not so serious as people have been preaching all along. In the Philippines, in the footsteps of Jesus, you'll find in this book of mine, page 85. Don't open it now. Don't open it now. Page 85, you'll find an article from Dar es Salaam of the Sunday News. You'll find there, Jesus' footsteps. And you find in there that this crucifixion, that 7 persons, let me read it to you. It says here, on Good Friday, at least 7 cases of crucifixion were reported in the local press. But the word crucifixion is in inverted commas. 6 times in this article, the word crucifixion occurred, and every time in inverted commas. You know what that means? It means they were not crucifixions. It means the so-called. You see, when it is in inverted commas, this is where people talk about crucifixion, that it was not really crucifixion. In inverted commas. Instead of writing every time the so-called crucifixion, the newspaper loses its value. So they don't want to tell you really, but they put it in inverted commas. This reporter, Reg Grattan, he had the brains, he knew what he was doing. 6 times, every time the word crucifixion is in inverted commas, meaning it was not really the crucifixion. Listen. On Good Friday, at least 7 cases of crucifixion were reported in the local press. One of these was Luciana Reyes, a 23-year-old factory worker and the first woman known to have performed the ritual. First woman got crucified. But she wasn't crucified because she was alive. She lived. She's still living. See? So what do you call that? These Christians, this attorney from Benoni, a born-again Christian, and this guy Josh McDowell, they wrote a book. And in that they are asking me the question. They haven't got a word in their language for a person going on the cross and going through the ordeal and not dying. Would you say he was crucified when 20 years later somebody shot him, or 20 years later he was hanged, or 5 years later a motor car knocked him down? What was his end? Crucified? No. What happened on the cross? There is no word in the English language. For that they're making a mockery of me. I said, I'll supply you the word. These educated fools, I tell you, fools. They haven't got a word in their own language to tell us what happened. A man is taken to the gallows. The noose is put around his neck. The rope is pulled. But before the man expires, they cut the rope. Was the man hanged? What? One word. Give me one word in your language. There isn't. You haven't got a word in your language to describe that. Is that my fault? I said, what it is not crucifixion in inverted commas. It is crucifixion. These are fictions taking place. These are fairy tales. Zan. So, a woman is doing that. She did it. First woman to do that. The crucifixion, some shown live on television, they show them live on television, have now become the climax of Easter week in the Philippines. In some cases, they attract thousands of visitors to provincial towns where the atmosphere is a blend of carnival and deep mourning. Suggestion for our Christian brethren here. What about enacting something here in Ceres or somewhere around here in Bontivar? Look, you'll get thousands of people coming along to see the fun. They're doing it in the Philippines. They're getting themselves hung on the cross. nailed. And they're not dying. It's because they're doing it for kicks, kicks for enjoyment, for pleasure. One man fainted. After being removed from the cross, he had to be carried to a waiting bus. Another was up and smoking a cigarette as soon as his hands were bandaged. These are the crucified people. Would you call them crucified or crucifixed? They're not crucified, crucifixed. And what's taking place is crucifixion. F-I-C-T-I-O-N, fiction, not F-I-X-I-O-N. It's not crucifixion, it is crucifixion. F-I-C-T-I-O-N, it's a fiction taking place. And they're doing the real thing, not like what they do in films. They just try and show you as if the man is getting, like these films you see, Jesus of Nazareth, the Day of Triumph, King of Kings. They show the man, going through the ordeal. That's all acting, play acting. This is no play acting, they will go through the real thing. But this is crucifixions. There are fictions, there are not crucifixions. One of them, Mario Bactus, a 33-year-old vendor, had gone through the ritual for the 5th time. He was crucified 5 times already. For the 5th time, every year he's going through the process. And like the Bacalor penitence, he promised to return next year. He said he had vowed to perform the crucifixions for 10 years after his wife recovered from cancer. 10 years. He's going to do it 10 times. Every year he gets crucified. He's getting crucified? He is getting crucifixed. And these are crucifixions. Fictions. Fable, fiction. These are fictions taking place. You don't have to go all the way to the Philippines, too far. In Natal, you'll see on page 36 and 56 of the book I gave you, pictures of a man in Natal in Newcastle, crucified man hung on the cross. And he did something more than the Filipinos do. He put a spike through his thigh also to show that the man has mind over matter. He's proving that, the mind, what it can bear. And he's a barman. Vandenberg and Afrikaner. He's done it. Getting crucified on the cross. And then he's brought down. And a few days later, he's back to work. Would you say he was crucified? What would you call that? The newspaper is a crucified man hung on cross. Was he crucified? Crucified means to kill. The man is alive. One word. I say he was being crucifixed. And these are crucifixions. This is not F-I-X-I-O-N. You must call them fictions. These are crucifixions. They're playing with the game. And now the Christians, they give you a choice. Ooh, they give you a choice. This born again, that spirit is coming into them. You'll find that this man here of the Campus Crusade, he publishes a book, The Resurrection Factor. In that book, on page 47, he shows us Jesus Christ on the cross. After 1,000 hours of actual study on the crucifixion, he comes along with this picture. You got the book. If you haven't, when you go out, you must get that book. It's absolutely free. You owe it to yourself. You must have it. His Lord and Savior, he put him up like a frog. Look, you'll see it there. Page 47, you'll see it. He's like a frog on the cross. Actually like a frog. So I'm asking now, is this froggy fiction as illustrated here? And like a frog, I didn't do it. This is the Campus Crusade publication, page 47. It's like a frog. You'll see it there on page 47. If you have the book, open it and see it. Page 47. So you must take it when you go out. Like a frog. Page 47. Or 87, I'm sorry. This is 47 of his book. His book. In his book, page 47. I'm sorry, yes. Right. Froggy fiction, as in page 87. Then you see the Jehovah's Witnesses, they getting the cross stuck in the throat. The Jehovah's Witnesses. So they say, no, the Lord was stakified. He was put on a stake, a totem pole. You find that on page 74. He's put on a stake like that. Not like this, like that. See that, page 74. So now that is stakey fiction. Look, they're giving you a choice. You can take your choice now. What? Froggy fiction or stakey fiction or crucifixion on page 33. It will show you that he was not nailed. Page 33, you'll see. What a choice. What a choice. The Christians are giving you now. Take your choice. Either your Lord was froggy ficted, or whether he was stakey ficted, or whether he was crucifixed. What? A choice. They're giving you numerous choices. See for yourself. We didn't do it. We are not theorizing. We don't say what happened, what not. I say, look, this is what you're telling us. Like a frog, like a stake, or like a cross. What did he do? What happened?